you've made bad decisions and you've now woken up in your marriage and you see your kids doing these things, speak over them, because as you speak, it's an impulse that goes in the brain. It's a signal that generates in the brain, and you can go in and you can destroy and say, it's not going beyond this generation. You can wipe out that negativity. Please remember that you are all brilliant, made in the image of a brilliant God. Genesis 1:26 says that we are made in his image. So he is brilliant. You are brilliant. Turn to your wife, turn to your husband and say, listen, I can understand every word she says because you and I, we're both brilliant. Okay, so and you're also a neuroplastician. Did you know you're a neuroplastician? You have an honorary doctorate in neuroplastics because you are able to change your own brain. Neuro means brain, plastic means to change. You are designed to change your own brain. You see, we control our brain does not control us. We live in a world where we're told that, well, you know what, your genetic code and this and genes and your past and everything determine who we are, but the stamps of your past do not determine your future unless you choose to let them determine your future. Being spirit, soul, body, what we need to recognize is that with our soul realm, which is our intellect, will, and our emotions, we are actually influencing how our body functions, and we are influencing our spiritual development, and that applies in a relationship. So how you react to each other, how you react to the events and circumstances of your daily life in your relationships actually changes your brain. At the end of the day, a man tends to go inside his head and a woman tends to go outside her head. So we think externally and with lots of words and emotions, and men think internally. And generally at the end of the day is when we are processing all the things that have been happening during the day, and a man's going inside his cave, you've heard of that concept, and a woman's coming totally outside of her cave, and that is where you can have a lot of conflict. And I remember at the beginning of our marriage looking at Mac and saying, what's wrong? And then he'd say, nothing's wrong. I'd say, but something's wrong. Look at your face. You know, and there was nothing wrong. It was me assuming that he was thinking something. Meanwhile, he was just processing the day. And so all these little misunderstandings can build. And the first 6 months of marriage is where a lot of really bad habits can build. And our relationships go through these phases. Now, when you first fall in love, there's this huge neurochemical rush. And obviously, it's spiritual too. But remember, God made everything. So God gives you spirit, your soul, your body. So this whole spiritual mind thing in a relationship has a physical representation. So we have all this chemical rush and all this incredible electrical chemical stuff going on. You process each other and you literally are drawn to each other by these different chemicals and electromagnetic forces literally that God has designed to attract us to each other. When we get married and we have sex, we actually then literally are building each other inside each other's head. So as you are forming that relationship, as you are intimate with each other, you're growing each other networks inside of your head. And daily, as you reach out and say, I love you and thank you, or you may be on the negative side, you are adding branches to those networks inside of your head. You determine what those connections look like. But we have this stuff, we are inside each other's head, and we need to grow that like we need to have a relationship daily. It's a daily thing that we have to keep building onto these networks. So those patterns that you know that you saw your mother and your father and you see yourself doing, you do not have to stay in there. You do not have to stay bound in those reactions. You can wipe them out. If you've made bad decisions and you've now woken up in your marriage and you see your kids doing these things, speak over them, because as you speak, it's an impulse that goes in the brain. It's a signal that generates in the brain, and you can go in and you can destroy and say, it's not going beyond this generation. You can wipe out that negativity. You speak over them.